Long ago, in a gentle land resting between rolling hills and distant mountains, there existed a forest unlike any other, known as the Silver Forest, not because its trees were made of metal, but because moonlight seemed to linger upon its leaves longer than anywhere else in the world. And the forest was always quiet, not silent, but quiet in a way that felt kind, where the wind moved slowly as if it had learned patience from the trees, where birds softened their songs as evening approached, and where even footsteps sounded lighter beneath the ancient branches. And at the very heart of this silver forest stood a small stone castle, old but not broken, weathered yet warm, its pale walls shaped by centuries of gentle rain, moss resting peacefully along the stones and ivy climbing without urgency toward narrow windows. And this castle was home to Princess Elena, a princess not known across kingdoms, not celebrated in songs, not announced by ringing bells. And that was exactly how she preferred it. For Elena was called the Quiet Princess, and from the moment she was born she carried a calm within her, crying softly as an infant, moving slowly as a child, listening far more than she spoke. And as she grew, the forest seemed to recognize her presence, leaves stirring gently when she passed, animals pausing without fear to watch her with soft eyes, the air itself growing steadier around her, and Elena lived simply within the stone walls of the castle. Waking each morning as sunlight slowly touched the curtains of her room, rising without haste, and allowing the quiet to stretch around her like a warm blanket, washing her face in cool water drawn from the well, dressing in soft, pale fabrics that moved easily with her, wearing no heavy crowns or stiff gowns, eating modest breakfasts of warm bread, fresh honey, and herbal tea gathered from the forest's edge, and after eating she often walked through the castle halls, where her footsteps echoed gently against stone, past tall windows framing the forest like living paintings, down worn steps, and into open air where the silver forest welcomed her every time with tall patient trees standing like guardians, their branches reaching slowly toward the sky as soft light filtered through leaves and drifted across the ground. And Elena followed familiar paths shaped not by force, but by years of gentle use, breathing deeply the scent of earth, bark, and cool shadow, sometimes resting her hand against a tree to feel its steady strength, sometimes pausing to listen to distant birds or the quiet movement of unseen animals, as time itself seemed to slow and drift. And by midday she often reached a small clearing where an old oak tree spread its branches wide and a simple wooden bench rested at its base, worn smooth by years of quiet moments. And there Elena would sit, close her eyes, and listen to the wind, to the forest, to her own breathing, allowing thoughts to pass like clouds across a calm sky, with nothing demanding attention and nothing requiring action, until afternoon softened into evening and the forest shifted almost imperceptibly, light growing gentler, shadows lengthening, the air cooling against her skin, and Elena would rise and walk back toward the castle as lanterns flickered warmly along the stone walls, the castle itself seeming to exhale as night arrived, and inside she ate a light supper in silence, read from old books with yellowed pages, and eventually returned to her chamber, where her simple room waited with a wooden bed, soft linens, and a candle burning low beside an open window through which the silver forest glowed faintly beneath the moon. And Elena lay down slowly, breathed in and out, and allowed sleep to arrive easily, while the forest stood still beneath starlight, animals resting in quiet places, the castle holding its breath, all calm, all safe. And somewhere deep within the silver forest, something ancient and gentle stirred, not with urgency or fear, but with recognition. For the quiet princess belonged to the forest, and the forest remembered as the night deepened and the moon climbed higher above the silver forest. A gentle stillness settled over the land, the kind of stillness that felt alive rather than empty. And within her chamber, Princess Elena slept peacefully, her breathing slow, and even as the soft glow of moonlight moved across the stone floor. And in her dreams, she wandered the forest paths without sound, her steps guided not by sight but by memory, as if the forest itself were quietly leading her onward. And she passed beneath tall trees whose branches swayed with the faintest motion, leaves whispering in a language older than words. And the deeper she walked, the calmer everything became, until even the concept of distance seemed to fade, and time itself felt like a slow and gentle tide. And somewhere ahead, she sensed a clearing she had never visited while awake, a place wrapped in silver light and cool air, where the ground was soft beneath her feet and the forest opened into a wide circle. And at its center rested a small pool of water so still it reflected the stars perfectly, and Elena knelt beside it without fear or hesitation, watching the surface shimmer faintly as if breathing. and as she looked into the pool, she felt a quiet recognition. A sense of belonging that settled deep within her chest, and the forest seemed to lean closer, listening, remembering, and the trees around the clearing stood in silent agreement, their roots stretching far beneath the earth, carrying stories of centuries past. And though no voice spoke aloud, Elena understood, not with her mind but with her calm and open heart, that the silver forest had watched over generations, had sheltered travelers, had softened sorrow, and had waited patiently for those who could listen. And in that gentle dream space, Elena rested beside the pool, her reflection blending with moonlight and water, her breathing matching the slow rhythm of the forest. And as the dream drifted onward, the clearing began to fade, dissolving not suddenly but gradually, like mist lifting at dawn. And Elena felt herself floating back through winding paths, guided again by unseen hands, until her dream grew lighter and quieter. And back in her chamber, the candle burned low, while the forest outside remained still and protective, the ancient presence settling once more into peaceful rest, knowing the quiet princess had heard its call, and knowing there was no need to hurry, for all things would continue in their own gentle time. Morning arrived gently in the silver forest, not with sharp light or sudden sound, but with a gradual softening of darkness, and Princess Elena awoke, as she always did, slowly and without urgency, her dreams lingering like a warm echo as pale sunlight touched the stone walls of her chamber, and she lay still for a moment, breathing calmly, feeling the quiet presence of the forest beyond the window. And when she finally rose, she dressed in familiar soft fabrics and moved through the castle halls with light steps, the air cool and peaceful around her, and outside the forest greeted her as if nothing had changed, though something subtle had deepened, a sense of quiet understanding shared between tree and princess. And Elena walked familiar paths, yet felt them differently, noticing how the light filtered more softly, how the sounds rested longer in silence. And she found herself drawn once again toward the heart of the forest, not by curiosity, but by calm recognition. And as she walked, she felt the steady rhythm of her breathing align with the gentle pulse of the land. And the deeper she went, the more the world seemed to slow, until even her thoughts softened and thinned. And eventually she reached the old oak and the wooden bench where she often rested. And she sat there as she always had, hands folded loosely, eyes closing without effort. Listening to the wind, to the distant birds, to the quiet movement beneath the earth. And in that stillness she sensed the forest remembering her, holding her presence like a soft echo, and time passed without measure as sunlight drifted across the clearing and shadows shifted lazily. And when she finally opened her eyes, the day had moved gently forward, yet nothing felt lost or hurried, and Elena rose and continued her walk, carrying with her a deeper calm than before. A calm that settled not only within her, but seemed to extend outward, touching the leaves, the air, the very space around her, and the silver forest accepted this calm without question, allowing it to weave quietly into its ancient and patient rhythm. As the day continued its gentle passage, and the sun slowly traced its quiet path across the sky, Princess Elena wandered deeper into the silver forest with no clear destination in mind, guided only by the soft pull of familiarity and peace, and the forest seemed to open for her, branches arching slightly overhead. The ground soft and forgiving beneath her steps, and with every breath she felt more at ease, as though the forest itself were breathing with her, and she noticed small details she had passed countless times before, the subtle patterns in bark, the way light rested briefly on leaves before drifting away, the faint sound of water moving far below the roots, and these details asked nothing of her except presence, and so she remained present, moving slowly, pausing often, allowing the quiet to deepen. Until she reached a narrow stream winding gently through the trees, its surface smooth and reflective, and she sat beside it, watching the water flow without effort, carrying reflections of sky and branches in calm repetition. And as she listened to the soft movement of the stream, she felt her thoughts grow lighter, rising and dissolving like mist, and the forest seemed content with her stillness, surrounding her with steady patience, and time again loosened its hold, stretching softly. Until the light began to soften and the air cooled, signaling the slow approach of evening, and Elena rose without hurry and followed the winding path back toward the castle, the forest accompanying her every step, leaves stirring gently as if in farewell, the quiet deepening rather than ending. And when the stone walls of the castle appeared through the trees, she felt no separation, only continuity, as though the calm of the forest moved with her, settling once more within the familiar halls. Ready to remain through the coming night and the many gentle days yet to unfold. Evening settled over the silver forest like a soft veil, dimming the light without extinguishing it, and within the castle princess, Elena moved quietly through familiar routines, lighting a single candle, preparing a simple meal, and sitting by the window as twilight deepened. And outside the forest responded in kind, sounds growing fewer and farther between, the air cooling gently, and as darkness arrived the moon rose slowly, casting its pale glow across the trees and stone walls alike. And Elena felt the calm of the forest return to her in waves, steady and reassuring. And when she lay down to rest, she did so without thought or effort, her breathing deep and even, and sleep carried her once more into gentle dreams where the forest paths unfolded beneath silver light, where trees stood close yet welcoming, and where the soft presence she had sensed before remained nearby, watchful and kind. And in these dreams, Elena did not walk far or fast, but rested within the stillness itself, her awareness drifting like leaves on quiet water. And as the night stretched onward, the castle remained still, the forest standing guard, ancient roots holding steady beneath the earth. And nothing stirred with urgency, nothing called for action, for all was unfolding exactly as it should, slowly, peacefully, and in perfect harmony with the calm rhythm of the silver forest. As the night continued its unhurried journey and stars drifted quietly across the sky, Princess Elena rested in a state between waking and dreaming, where thoughts softened and time lost its edges. And in this gentle space, she felt the silver forest not as something around her, but as something within her, a steady presence that rose and fell with her breathing. And though her body remained still, her awareness wandered peacefully through moonlit paths, across clearings bathed in silver light, and beside ancient trees whose roots stretched deep into the earth. And there was no direction, no purpose beyond rest itself, and the forest asked nothing of her except to remain. And so she remained, allowing calm to deepen and spread. And outside the castle the forest stood unchanged, branches barely moving, shadows resting quietly, animals sleeping in hidden places, all held together by the same gentle rhythm. And as the hours passed, the night grew softer rather than darker, wrapping the land in quiet reassurance, and Elena's breathing remained slow and even, her presence blending seamlessly with the calm that surrounded her, until eventually even the idea of dreaming faded, leaving only stillness. And in that stillness, the silver forest continued its ancient watch, patient and serene, carrying the quiet princess and the sleeping land together through the long, peaceful night. As the night gradually loosened its hold and the deep hours before dawn unfolded, the silver forest remained wrapped in a calm so complete it felt timeless. And within this calm, Princess Elena rested without movement, her breathing steady and gentle, each breath blending seamlessly with the quiet pulse of the land. And in the soft space between sleep and stillness, her awareness drifted slowly, not traveling anywhere in particular, but resting within familiar sensations, the coolness of night air, the faint scent of earth and leaves, the distant memory of moonlight filtering through branches. And it felt as though the forest itself was breathing alongside her, rising and falling in a shared rhythm, roots resting deep beneath the soil, branches reaching calmly toward the sky, all connected in patient harmony. And the castle stood as a silent extension of the forest, its stone walls holding warmth gathered during the day, its corridors empty and peaceful. And outside the trees neither watched nor waited, but simply existed, confident in their ancient stillness. And as the hours passed, the stars slowly shifted, and the sky lightened almost imperceptibly, not enough to wake the world, but enough to soften the darkness. And in this gradual change, Elena remained undisturbed, her dreams fading into gentle impressions rather than images, impressions of safety, belonging, and rest. And nothing called her back to waking, nothing required thought or attention. And the forest accepted this fully, holding the quiet moment without hurry, allowing the night to complete itself at its own pace, knowing that morning would arrive gently when it was ready, just as it always did. And until then, the silver forest and the quiet princess remained perfectly at rest, suspended together in a long, peaceful breath. As the first hint of morning slowly approached, not yet visible but gently felt, the silver forest rested in a state of quiet anticipation, and Princess Elena remained asleep, her breathing deep and unbroken, as though she were being carried by the same steady rhythm that guided the forest itself. And the air held a soft coolness, neither night nor day, a moment that belonged fully to neither. And in this stillness, the trees stood tall and unhurried, their leaves barely stirring. Their roots resting in patient strength beneath the earth, and even the distant hills seemed to pause, allowing the calm to linger a little longer. And within the castle, the stone walls held their gentle warmth, sheltering the quiet within, and Alina's dreams continued not as stories but as sensations, a sense of drifting, of floating without effort, of being fully supported, and time seemed to stretch and soften around her, losing its shape. And the forest did not rush toward dawn but welcomed it slowly, letting light approach without command. And as the sky grew just slightly brighter, enough to suggest morning without declaring it, the silver forest and the quiet princess remained at rest together, content in the knowledge that nothing needed to change, nothing needed to begin yet, and that this peaceful moment, suspended between night and day, could last as long as it wished. When morning finally arrived, it did so without urgency, spreading softly through the silver forest like a gentle exhale, and the light that filtered between the trees was pale and kind, resting briefly on leaves before drifting onward. And Princess Elena remained asleep as the world quietly shifted around her breathing still slow and even, untouched by the change of hour, and outside the forest accepted the new day without sound, birds remaining still, branches unmoving. As though honoring the calm that had carried the night to its end, and the castle stood quietly within this light, its stone walls cool and steady, and inside Elena's awareness floated lightly, not waking fully but resting in a peaceful space where thought had no weight, and time once again seemed to lose its edges, stretching gently as the morning settled in, and nothing called for her attention, nothing asked her to rise, for the silver forest understood that rest was part of its ancient rhythm. And so the quiet remained unbroken, allowing the day to begin slowly, carefully, and without demand, just as it always had, and just as it always would, beneath the patient branches of the silver forest. As the gentle morning light continued to rest across the silver forest, the sense of stillness remained, unbroken and complete, and Princess Elena slept on, her body and mind fully at ease, as though the forest itself were watching over her rest. And outside the trees stood quietly, their leaves holding the light without movement, the ground cool and steady beneath them, and the air carried a soft clarity that felt neither new nor old. And within this peaceful balance, Elena's breathing remained slow and rhythmic, each breath blending seamlessly with the calm pulse of the land, and thoughts no longer formed, replaced instead by a deep and comfortable quiet, and time flowed gently without direction or demand, allowing the morning to unfold at its own pace. And the silver forest accepted this moment fully, content to remain exactly as it was, holding the quiet princess and the day itself in a shared, unhurried calm that required nothing more than simply being. As the morning settled fully into the silver forest without disturbing its calm, the quiet seemed to deepen rather than fade, and Princess Elena remained wrapped in rest, her presence soft and steady within the castle walls, and the light that entered her chamber was muted and forgiving, never demanding her attention, and outside the forest continued its ancient rhythm, trees standing patiently, roots resting deep in the earth, shadows shifting so slowly they were barely noticeable. And the world felt complete just as it was, requiring no movement, no decision, no awareness beyond gentle breathing, and in this stillness Elena's dreams dissolved completely, leaving behind a peaceful emptiness where thought no longer reached, and time flowed on without measure, carrying the day forward in a smooth and effortless way, and the silver forest held this calm carefully, as it always had, surrounding the quiet princess with a sense of belonging that did not need words. Allowing rest to continue without end, without urgency, and without change, as the quiet morning stretched onward beneath the softly glowing sky. As the day continued to unfold in the silver forest with a patience known only to ancient places, the quiet did not lift, but instead settled more deeply into everything it touched, and Princess Elena remained resting in a state so peaceful that it felt timeless, her breathing slow and steady, each breath flowing naturally into the next without effort or thought, and the light that moved across the forest floor did so gently, pausing on moss and stone, slipping through leaves. Never lingering too long in one place, as though even the sunlight had learned to move softly here, and the trees stood in calm companionship, their branches barely shifting, their roots resting securely beneath the earth, holding centuries of stillness within them, and the castle itself seemed to breathe quietly, its walls holding the coolness of stone and the warmth of safety, sheltering the calm within, and in this unhurried world time no longer pressed forward, but drifted like a slow current, carrying moments past one another without separation, and Alina's awareness remained comfortably distant, neither waking nor dreaming, resting instead in a deep, gentle quiet where nothing needed to be understood or remembered. And outside the forest accepted the passing hours without sound, birds remaining silent, wind barely stirring, as though the land itself were resting alongside her, and every detail, from the soft shadows beneath the trees to the faint scent of earth in the air, worked together to sustain this peace, and the silver forest held it all with ancient care, allowing the day to continue exactly as it wished, without expectation, without urgency, knowing that rest was not an interruption but a natural and essential part of its rhythm. And so the quiet princess remained embraced by this calm, supported by the forest's steady presence, drifting gently within a moment that asked nothing and promised nothing beyond the simple comfort of being. As the silver forest continued its slow, patient watch beneath the quiet sky. As the long hours of the day drifted quietly onward within the silver forest, the calm remained constant and unbroken, settling into every space between trees and stones, and Princess Elena continued to rest, her breathing gentle and unhurried, as though she were part of the forest's own steady rhythm, and the light beyond the castle walls shifted gradually, softening and deepening without ever becoming sharp, and shadows moved almost imperceptibly, stretching and relaxing across the ground. And the forest accepted these changes without sound, leaves barely stirring, branches holding still, and in this peaceful balance time lost its meaning, becoming simply a gentle flow rather than a series of moments. And Alina's awareness remained comfortably distant, free from thought or memory, resting in a quiet emptiness that felt warm and safe, and the silver forest continued its ancient watch, surrounding the castle with patient care, allowing rest to continue as long as it wished. Knowing that nothing needed to happen, nothing needed to begin, and nothing needed to end, as the calm carried on beneath the softly changing sky. As the quiet hours continued to stretch gently across the silver forest, the sense of stillness became so complete that it felt as though the world itself had settled into rest, and Princess Elena remained peacefully asleep within the stone walls of the castle, her breathing soft and rhythmic, rising and falling in perfect harmony with the calm around her. And outside the forest stood unchanged, trees rooted firmly in the earth, branches resting without movement, leaves holding the light and shadow with equal ease, and the air itself felt settled, cool and smooth, carrying the faint scent of moss and distant earth. And time moved without direction, without urgency, drifting slowly like a quiet stream that neither rushed nor paused. And Alina's awareness rested far from waking thought, no longer forming dreams or images, but existing in a gentle state of ease where nothing needed to be known or remembered. And the castle seemed to share in this rest. Its stone corridors silent, its windows filtering light softly, never intruding, never calling for attention. And beyond the castle walls, the silver forest continued its ancient rhythm, a rhythm shaped not by hours or days, but by patience, by seasons unfolding slowly, by countless moments of quiet like this one. And the forest held Elena within that rhythm, not as something separate, but as something naturally belonging. And the subtle changes of the day passed unnoticed, light shifting gradually, shadows lengthening and then softening again, all without sound or demand, and the land itself seemed content to remain exactly as it was, breathing calmly, existing gently, and allowing rest to deepen further. And in this unbroken calm, the quiet princess and the silver forest remained together, suspended in a peaceful continuity where nothing pressed forward and nothing pulled away, where the only movement was the slow, steady flow of breath. And the only presence was the comforting knowledge that all was well, all was quiet, and all would continue just as peacefully, moment after moment, beneath the patient sky. As the gentle cycle of the silver forest continued without interruption, the calm seemed to expand outward, filling every quiet space between trees, stones, and sky, and Princess Elena remained deeply at rest, her breathing so steady and light that it blended completely with the peaceful rhythm surrounding her. And within the castle, the air felt settled and still, holding a soft balance of cool stone and lingering warmth, while outside the forest rested in perfect patience. Its roots anchored firmly beneath the earth, its branches lifted effortlessly toward the open sky, and the light moved slowly across the land, never sharp, never insistent, drifting instead like a soft veil that asked nothing of what it touched. And time itself appeared to loosen further, stretching into a continuous flow where moments no longer separated themselves from one another, and Alina's awareness remained far from thought, far from memory. Resting in a quiet state where there was no need to dream and no need to wake, only the comfort of being held by something ancient and kind, and the silver forest continued its silent guardianship, not watching, not waiting, but simply existing alongside her, confident in its steady presence, and even the faintest sounds seemed to dissolve before they could form, leaving behind a deep and reassuring stillness, and as the day moved gently forward without announcement. The calm did not fade or shift, but remained complete, surrounding the quiet princess and the land alike in a peaceful continuity that flowed on effortlessly, moment after moment, breath after breath, beneath the wide and unhurried sky. As the quiet continued to deepen throughout the silver forest, the sense of rest became so complete that it felt as though the land itself had settled into a long, peaceful pause, and Princess Elena remained gently asleep. Her breathing slow and natural, each breath flowing smoothly into the next. And within the castle, the air stayed cool and steady, stone walls holding the silence with care, while outside the forest stood in timeless stillness, leaves resting without movement, branches balanced easily against the open sky, and light drifted gradually across the ground, softening and fading without ever drawing attention to itself, and time moved without edges or urgency, dissolving into a continuous calm where nothing needed to change or progress, and Alina's awareness rested comfortably beyond thought or dream, supported by the same quiet presence that filled the forest, and the silver forest continued its ancient rhythm, patient and unbroken, allowing this deep stillness to remain as long as it wished, holding the quiet princess and the peaceful land together in a shared, effortless rest that flowed gently onward, breath by breath, moment by moment. Beneath the calm and waiting sky, as the silver forest remained wrapped in its enduring calm, the stillness seemed to stretch even further, settling gently into every layer of the land, from the highest branches to the deepest roots beneath the soil, and Princess Elena continued to rest without movement, her breathing smooth and unbroken, as though it were guided by the same quiet rhythm that guided the forest itself. And within the castle, the silence felt warm and protective, stone walls holding the peaceful air without echo. While outside, the light shifted almost invisibly, softening and dimming in a way that felt more like a feeling than a change, and time no longer moved forward in any recognizable way, but instead drifted in a slow, circular flow, returning again and again to the same sense of ease, and Alina's awareness rested far beyond waking thought, beyond images or memory, settling into a gentle emptiness that felt safe and complete, and the forest accepted this rest fully, not marking hours or moments, not anticipating what might come next, but existing patiently within the present, and every part of the land seemed to share this quiet agreement, leaves remaining still, shadows resting in place, air holding its softness, and as the calm continued without interruption, the boundary between the quiet princess and the silver forest grew ever lighter, until it felt as though they were simply part of the same peaceful breath, rising and falling together beneath the wide, unhurried sky. Carried onward in a deep and effortless rest that asked nothing and promised nothing beyond its own gentle continuity. As the quiet presence of the silver forest continued to hold the land in its patient embrace, the stillness seemed to deepen into something vast and comforting, spreading gently through every tree, every stone, and every open space between them, and Princess Elena remained completely at rest within the castle, her breathing slow, even, and effortless, each breath flowing naturally into the next, as though guided by the same ancient rhythm that shaped the forest itself. And the air around her felt balanced and calm, neither cool nor warm, simply present, while beyond the stone walls the forest stood unchanged, branches resting easily against the sky, leaves settled without movement, roots anchored securely beneath the earth, carrying centuries of quiet strength, and the light beyond the trees shifted so gradually it could not be measured, softening and deepening in a way that felt timeless, as though day and night were no longer separate moments, but part of a continuous, gentle cycle, and time itself seemed to dissolve, no longer moving forward but spreading outward, allowing the present moment to stretch endlessly without pressure or expectation, and Alina's awareness rested far beyond thought or memory, beyond dreams or images, settling instead into a deep, peaceful stillness where nothing needed to be understood or held onto, and the silver forest accepted this rest completely, surrounding the castle with its ancient patience, holding the quiet princess not as something fragile but as something naturally belonging, and every subtle detail worked together to sustain this calm, the soft scent of earth lingering in the air, the quiet weight of shadows resting beneath the trees, the faint sense of openness above the canopy, and as the hours drifted on without sound or signal, the calm did not weaken or fade, but instead grew more settled, more complete, allowing rest to deepen further. Until the boundary between Elena and the forest felt almost non-existent, as though both were part of the same long, steady breath, rising and falling together in perfect harmony, carried gently onward through a moment that had no beginning and no end, only the comforting continuity of stillness beneath the wide and waiting sky. As the silver forest continued to exist in its unbroken calm, the stillness seemed to widen gently, extending beyond any sense of place or time, and Princess Elena remained fully at rest, her breathing soft and rhythmic, each breath flowing naturally into the next as though the forest itself were breathing through her. And within the castle, the quiet felt complete and settled, stone walls holding the silence without echo or disturbance, while outside the forest rested in perfect patience. Its trees standing steady, leaves resting quietly, roots holding the earth with quiet strength, and the light beyond the canopy shifted so slowly, it felt more like a sensation than a change, and time itself seemed to lose all shape and direction, no longer passing but simply being, allowing the present moment to stretch and soften without limit. And Elena's awareness remained far from thought or memory, resting instead in a deep, comfortable stillness where nothing needed to be known or considered. And the silver forest continued its ancient watch without effort or intention, not guarding or waiting, but simply sharing its steady presence. And every element of the land worked together to sustain this peace, from the faint scent of moss in the air to the gentle openness of the sky above. And as the calm continued without interruption, it deepened further, wrapping the quiet princess and the forest alike in a continuous, effortless rest, where nothing pressed forward and nothing pulled away. And the only movement that remained was the slow, steady rhythm of breath, rising and falling in quiet harmony beneath the vast and unhurried sky. As the calm of the silver forest continued to unfold without interruption, it felt as though the world had settled into a state of gentle completeness, where nothing was missing and nothing needed to arrive. And Princess Elena remained deeply at rest within the castle, her breathing soft and steady, each breath flowing effortlessly into the next, supported by the same quiet rhythm that moved through the forest itself, and the air around her felt smooth and balanced, carrying a sense of safety that required no thought. While beyond the stone walls the forest stood in timeless stillness, trees resting in patient harmony, branches held lightly against the open sky, leaves unmoving yet full of quiet life, and beneath the ground the roots remained deeply anchored, holding the land together with ancient strength, and the light that filtered through the canopy shifted so slowly it seemed almost still, resting gently on moss and earth before drifting onward, never calling attention to itself, and time no longer felt like a passing thing, but like a wide, open space in which everything could rest. And Elena's awareness remained far beyond waking or dreaming, settling instead into a deep, soothing quiet where thoughts no longer formed and memories gently faded. And the silver forest accepted this moment fully, holding the castle, the trees, and the quiet princess together in a shared state of ease, where nothing moved too quickly and nothing asked to be noticed. And as this calm continued to deepen, it became clear that it did not belong to night or day, but existed outside of both. A peaceful continuity that carried everything gently forward without effort, breath by breath, moment by moment, beneath the wide and endlessly patient sky. As the silver forest remained suspended in its deep and unchanging calm, the stillness seemed to soften even further, becoming almost weightless, as though the land itself were resting upon a gentle breath. And Princess Elena continued to sleep peacefully within the quiet safety of the castle, her breathing slow and natural, rising and falling in a rhythm so steady it felt timeless, and the air around her held a quiet warmth balanced with coolness, neither noticeable nor demanding, simply present. While outside the forest stood in patient harmony, trees neither reaching nor retreating, branches resting easily beneath the open sky, leaves settled into perfect stillness, and beneath the earth the roots lay deep and secure, carrying the memory of countless calm moments like this one. And the light beyond the canopy drifted so slowly it felt almost motionless, spreading gently across the forest floor and softening every shadow without erasing it. And time itself seemed to dissolve into a wide, open stillness where nothing moved forward and nothing fell behind. allowing every moment to exist fully without pressure, and Alina's awareness remained far beyond thought, beyond dreams. Resting instead in a quiet emptiness that felt comforting and safe, and the silver forest accepted this rest without question, holding the castle and its sleeping princess within its ancient patience, and every subtle detail worked together to sustain this peace, the faint scent of earth lingering softly in the air, the quiet openness of the sky above, the gentle balance between light and shadow, and as this calm continued without interruption, it became clear that nothing needed to change. Nothing needed to begin, and nothing needed to end, for the quiet princess and the silver forest were already exactly where they were meant to be, resting together in a deep, effortless stillness that flowed gently onward, breath by breath, beneath the endlessly patient sky. As the vast calm of the silver forest continued to hold everything in quiet balance, the stillness seemed to spread even more gently, settling into the smallest spaces between moments, and Princess Elena remained resting in complete ease, her breathing soft and steady, each breath flowing naturally into the next as though it were guided by the same ancient rhythm that shaped the forest itself. And within the castle, the silence felt full rather than empty. Stone walls holding the quiet like a warm embrace, while outside the forest remained perfectly at rest, trees standing without effort, branches resting lightly against the open sky, leaves unmoving yet alive with quiet presence, and beneath the earth the roots lay deep and secure, holding centuries of calm within their patient reach, and the light beyond the canopy shifted so slowly it could barely be sensed, drifting across moss and earth, softening every surface without calling attention to itself. And time no longer felt like something that passed, but like something that gently surrounded everything, allowing the present moment to stretch and widen without limit. And Alina's awareness rested far beyond thought or memory, beyond dreaming or waking, settling into a deep, peaceful stillness where nothing needed to be understood or held onto. And the silver forest accepted this rest fully, surrounding the castle and its sleeping princess with quiet care. And every subtle detail worked together to maintain this peace, the faint scent of cool earth lingering in the air, the gentle openness above the trees, the balanced stillness between light and shadow. And as the calm continued without interruption, it deepened further, becoming a steady, comforting presence that carried the quiet princess and the forest together in a shared, effortless rest, breath by breath, moment by moment, beneath the wide, calm, and endlessly patient sky. As the silver forest remained immersed in its profound and unbroken calm, the stillness seemed to expand gently outward, as though it were quietly embracing everything within its reach, and Princess Elena continued to rest in perfect ease inside the castle, her breathing soft and unhurried, flowing naturally in a steady rhythm that blended completely with the quiet pulse of the land, and the air around her felt settled and balanced, carrying no sharpness, no weight, only a gentle sense of presence. While beyond the stone walls the forest stood in patient harmony, trees rooted deeply and securely, branches resting without strain beneath the open sky, leaves remaining still yet filled with quiet life, and beneath the earth the roots held centuries of calm, carrying the memory of countless peaceful moments like this one, and the light filtering through the canopy shifted so gradually it felt almost motionless, resting softly on moss and earth before drifting onward without sound. And time itself seemed to dissolve into a wide and open stillness, no longer moving forward or backward, but simply existing, allowing every moment to feel complete and unpressured. And Alina's awareness remained far beyond waking thought, far beyond dreams or memory, resting instead in a deep, comforting quiet where nothing needed to be known or remembered. And the silver forest accepted this rest fully, surrounding the castle and the quiet princess with ancient patience and gentle care. And every subtle detail worked together to maintain this peace, from the faint scent of earth lingering in the air to the soft balance between light and shadow. And as the calm continued without interruption, it deepened even further, becoming a steady and reassuring presence that carried the forest and its sleeping princess together in a shared, effortless stillness, breath by breath, moment by moment, beneath the vast and endlessly patient sky. As the silver forest continued to rest within its vast and gentle stillness, the calm seemed to settle even more deeply into every layer of the world, as though the land itself had exhaled and chosen to remain in that peaceful breath. And Princess Elena remained completely at ease within the castle, her body relaxed, her breathing slow and natural, each breath flowing into the next with effortless continuity, and the quiet around her felt full and reassuring, never empty, never heavy. simply present, while outside the forest stood in perfect patience, trees rising calmly from the earth, branches resting lightly beneath the open sky, leaves holding their place without movement, and beneath the soil the roots stretched wide and deep, carrying the memory of countless quiet days and nights, and the light filtering through the canopy shifted so slowly it could not be measured, softening shadows, warming stone, and drifting onward without calling attention to itself. And time itself seemed to lose all structure, no longer dividing moments into before and after, but instead becoming a wide, gentle space where everything could simply exist. And Alina's awareness rested far beyond waking or dreaming, beyond thought or memory, settling into a deep, soothing stillness where nothing needed to be understood, nothing needed to be held, and nothing needed to change. And the silver forest accepted this rest with ancient confidence. Surrounding the castle and the quiet princess with a steady presence that required no effort and offered no demand. And every subtle element worked together to maintain this peace. The faint scent of moss and earth lingering softly in the air, the quiet openness above the trees, the gentle balance between light and shadow that never shifted abruptly. And as the hours drifted on without sound or signal, the calm did not weaken, but instead grew more settled and complete, wrapping the forest and its sleeping princess together in a shared, effortless rest, where the only movement was the slow rise and fall of breath, and the only certainty was that this peaceful stillness could continue for as long as it wished, beneath the wide, calm, and endlessly patient sky. As the deep calm of the silver forest carried on without interruption, it felt as though the world had gently settled into a place where nothing needed to move or change, and Princess Elena remained resting in perfect comfort within the castle, her breathing calm and even, each breath flowing softly into the next as though guided by the same quiet rhythm that held the forest itself. And the air around her felt smooth and balanced, neither cool nor warm, simply steady and reassuring. While beyond the stone walls, the forest stood in timeless stillness, trees rooted securely in the earth, branches resting lightly beneath the open sky, leaves remaining unmoved yet alive with quiet presence, and beneath the ground the roots lay deep and strong, holding centuries of calm and patience within their silent reach, and the light filtering through the canopy shifted so slowly it felt almost suspended, resting briefly on moss, stone, and earth before drifting onward without sound. And time no longer felt like a passing thing, but like a wide, gentle space where moments blended seamlessly together, allowing rest to deepen naturally, and Alina's awareness remained far beyond waking thought or dreaming, settling instead into a peaceful emptiness that felt safe and complete. And the silver forest accepted this rest fully, surrounding the castle and its sleeping princess with ancient care, and every subtle detail worked together to sustain this quiet harmony. From the faint scent of earth lingering in the air to the soft balance between light and shadow across the forest floor. And as the calm continued, without effort, it became clear that this stillness was not temporary, but part of something enduring, a steady and comforting presence that carried the quiet princess and the silver forest together in a shared, effortless rest, breath by breath, moment by moment, beneath the vast and endlessly patient sky. As the silver forest remained gently suspended within its deep and enduring stillness, the calm seemed to spread even further, settling softly into every hidden corner of the land, as though the world itself had chosen to rest without end. And Princess Elena continued to sleep peacefully within the quiet shelter of the castle, her breathing slow, smooth, and effortless, each breath rising and falling in perfect harmony with the steady rhythm that flowed through the forest beyond the walls. And the air around her felt balanced and serene, carrying no sharpness, no urgency, only a gentle sense of presence that required no attention, while outside the forest stood in patient unity, trees rooted deeply and securely in the earth, branches resting lightly beneath the open sky, leaves unmoving yet full of quiet life, and beneath the soil the roots stretched wide and strong, holding centuries of calm and memory in their silent embrace. And the light filtering through the canopy shifted so slowly it felt almost still, softening shadows, warming stone, and drifting onward without calling notice to itself. And time itself seemed to dissolve completely, no longer marking progress or change, but becoming a wide, gentle space in which everything could simply exist. And Alina's awareness rested far beyond waking or dreaming, beyond thought or memory, settling into a deep, soothing stillness where nothing needed to be understood, remembered, or anticipated, and the silver forest accepted this rest fully, surrounding the castle and the quiet princess with ancient patience and quiet care, and every subtle detail worked together to maintain this peace. The faint scent of moss and cool earth lingering softly in the air, the gentle openness above the trees, the balanced stillness between light and shadow, and as the hours drifted on without sound or signal, the calm did not fade or weaken, but instead grew more settled and complete. Wrapping the forest and its sleeping princess together in a shared, effortless rest, where the only movement that remained was the slow, steady rhythm of breath, and the only certainty was that this peaceful stillness could continue endlessly, moment by moment, beneath the wide, calm, and endlessly patient sky. As the quiet of the silver forest continued to hold everything in gentle balance, the stillness felt deeper than before, not heavier but softer, as though it was slowly wrapping itself around every tree, every stone, and every breath. And Princess Elena remained peacefully asleep within the castle, her breathing steady and unhurried, each breath flowing naturally into the next without effort or awareness, and the air around her felt smooth and settled, offering comfort without demand. While beyond the castle walls the forest stood in perfect patience, trees rooted firmly in the earth, branches resting easily beneath the open sky, leaves remaining still yet quietly alive. And beneath the ground the roots lay deep and strong, holding the land together with ancient calm, and the light filtering through the canopy drifted so slowly it seemed almost motionless, resting gently on moss and stone before easing onward without sound, and time itself felt wide and open, no longer measured or divided, allowing each moment to blend seamlessly into the next, and Alina's awareness remained far beyond waking thought or dreaming, settling into a peaceful emptiness where nothing needed to be remembered, anticipated, or understood, and the silver forest accepted this rest without question, surrounding the castle and the quiet princess with steady care, and every subtle element worked together to maintain this harmony. From the faint scent of earth lingering softly in the air to the quiet balance between light and shadow across the forest floor, and as the calm continued without interruption, it became clear that this stillness was not temporary but enduring, a gentle and constant presence that carried the forest and its sleeping princess together in effortless rest, breath by breath, moment by moment, beneath the vast and endlessly patient sky. And so the silver forest remained exactly as it was, wrapped in its ancient calm, holding the castle, the trees, the earth, and the sky in a quiet harmony that required no witness. And Princess Elena continued to rest peacefully, her breathing slow and steady, her presence blending completely with the gentle rhythm of the land, and nothing arrived to disturb this stillness. No moment demanded attention, no thought needed to form, as time itself softened and spread into a wide, endless quiet. And the forest kept its silent watch, roots deep, branches still, light drifting slowly without purpose or urgency. And in this calm completeness there was no need for endings or beginnings. Only rest, only breath, only the comforting certainty that everything was held safely. And as the quiet stretched on without limit, the story gently released itself, like a final slow breath fading into silence, leaving behind only peace, stillness, and the soft, enduring calm of the silver forest.